What's up guys, TSI DoMiNaToR here again, and today we'll be continuing our playthrough of Assassin's Creed Origins Discovery Tour. Yay, more education. Just need to wait the half an hour it takes for this fucking thing to load, but... yeah, sorry that this channel's been kind of dead for a while guys. I've been kind of trying to regain my creative spark. I have just returned from over a month-long break from just streaming period because I had been burnt out for what I was doing, and frankly it was just getting to the point where I couldn't even be bothered to find the energy to stream, so I decided not streaming for Glitch Hunter, I'm not streaming for my channel, I'm just going to stop and see if just take some time off and try and regain some of my creative spark. And it has succeeded, more or less. I have decided to return, and it's going to be a wee bit different. Instead of just streaming whenever I want, whatever I want, I have decided to give myself 3 days a week to stream. A Monday and a Friday, which will be for a Glitch Hunter stream, and Wednesdays will be for my personal channel. Hello Sage, how are we today? Oh. So yeah, you can only expect like one video in this channel a week. Now, I can't remember what the last thing I done was. Where the hell am I anyway? So yeah, we're just going to jump right back into what we're doing and pick a tour. I'm not too sure where to start though. Trying to think. Yeah, Sage, if you send a message in the chat and it doesn't work at any point, message me on Discord and I'll check out, because I've noticed that when I'm streaming from the PlayStation it seems to have a problem with messages some points, because it sometimes doesn't show a message. You know what, I'm going to start with the Acropolis of Cyrene. Learn about the Acropolis Ward in the city of Cyrene. Estimated time 5 minutes. We'll just get started with that one, sure. So yeah, hopefully we'll get a decent amount of tours done today. Although I've not got a lot of hope for that. Just going to place this in its playlist and we can get started. Is my audio even coming through? Yes. Right. Live chat. There we go. Okay, so my tour is up these stairs. The Acropolis of Cyrene. Number of stations 3, region Kyrenaika. Learn about the Acropolis Ward in the city of Cyrene. Estimated time 5 minutes. Okay, I guarantee it's going to take a lot much longer than that for my commentary. Oh, it's Cyrene, my apologies.
Located on the western edge of the city, Cyrene's Acropolis was smaller than the one in Athens, though its high vantage point provided protection for the city. At its entrance was a single door, flanked by 2 towers. An inscription, legible to this day, states that the walls and the citadel were restored in the time of Augustus.
Okay, first thing, you, my friend, have fucked up with the text. You said located on the western edge of the city in the first paragraph. That just says located on the western edge of city. Did no one proofread this shit? So what am I looking at here? Position and plan of Cyrene by Beechey and Walker in proceedings of the expedition to explore the northern coast of Africa. 1828, Museums Victoria, Melbourne, Australia. Copyright Biodiversity Heritage Library, Australia. Huh. Okay. Oh shit, this is a Roman place. Statue of Berenice.
A number of statuettes have been excavated from the site, including one of Berenice, the daughter of Magus, the king of Cyrene, and half-brother of Ptolemy II. At the northeast tower, there is a sanctuary consisting of two small temples with a vestibule, and an altar believed to be that of Serapis and Isis. When the temples were excavated, archaeologists found traces of fire damage. However, there are no indications as to when this fire occurred.
You mean to tell me that's something historians can't find? Jesus. Let me just check something on my phone, guys. And that's a portrait of Berenice II, found in Hermopolis Magna, Egypt, dated 246 or to 221 BCE. Musée Royal de Erimont. Is that Morlan or Martin Wells in Belgium? I mean, Wiki loves art. Okay. Berenice. Right. Oh, a behind the scenes one.
In the 20th century, a fortification was built above the ward to defend against an invading army. It covered the ancient remains of nearby Roman houses entirely, and archaeologists have yet to fully excavate them.
Fair enough. Where is this one? Important monuments of Sardinia. I'm not spending the entire episode in Sardinia. Right, so we've done Siwa. You tell me that the Deseret Desert doesn't have any. Fuck's sake. Rediscovering Egypt. Pyramids of the Middle Kingdom. You know what? What we're going to do is we're going to find a high station one. Because I know there was a 25 one. 7, 9, 9, 5, 4, 5, 8, 5. Is that the one I just done? Yes. Is funerary complex. Khafre, 9, 11, 22. Okay, we could be looking at the Great Sphinx of Giza for the next one. 2, 20, 11, 22, 6, 8, 4, 3, 11, 9. No worries, Sage, better to keep your eyes on the road. Better to have your eyes on the road than to end up in a ditch because you're watching a YouTube stream. Just try to find the highest number of stations right now. 8, 9, 7, 12, 18. Right, so we're going to the Riddles of the Sphinx. Oh Christ. This is going to suck. Figured I might as well get the big numbers out of the way. Because I remember your class made me do the longest one, which was 25. And apparently we're supposed to fit that into 8 minutes. I don't see how. Egypt was home to 2 of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the Great Pyramid of Giza and the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Ptolemaic dynasty lasted from 332 to 30 BCE. Yikes, that's a fucking fair bit of distance that you'd all time you'd last. Right. Riddles of the Sphinx. Number of stations 22. Region Giza. Learn about the Great Sphinx of Giza and different changes the Sphinx endured through time. Estimated time 15 minutes.
Welcome
Funny.
to the Riddles of the Sphinx.
What is a Sphinx?
Was originally meant to be a personification of the king. The human head, wearing pharaonic regalia, was fused with the body of a lion, thus sharing the qualities the powerful animal possessed. Namely, its power, the swiftness of its attack, and its majestic authority. By these very virtues, it was also considered a symbol of protection. Unsurprisingly, statues of sphinxes could be found along the dromas, protectors of the path taken by the gods to reach the temples.
Okay. Right. Sorry, I was completely not listening. A sphinx was originally meant to be a personification of the king. The human head wearing pharaonic regalia was fused with the body. Yeah, we got that last one. What's the last paragraph? By these very virtues, it was also considered a symbol of protection. Unsurprisingly, statues of sphinxes could be found along the dromos, protectors of the path taken by the gods to reach the temples. And this is Karnak, alley with ram-headed sphinx. So you could do. I always thought a sphinx was supposed to be just a lion. You could get one with ram.
Over the centuries, enthusiasts and historians alike have wondered, who built the Sphinx? For what purpose? And who does it represent? These questions remain unanswered. Several theories do exist, however, some more credible than others. One theory supposes that Jedefre chose to pay homage to his father Khufu by building the Great Sphinx of Giza. The stone temple on the eastern face of the Sphinx would have been added later on by his brother and successor, Khafre, in order to strengthen the divine worship of their father. It would be the first Egyptian temple oriented with the sun.
That's a map of the pyramids of Giza. They spell Giza. Oh fuck, let me press that. Khafre's legacy.
Another theory suggests that the Sphinx was built by Khafre and was meant to represent him. The arguments to support this hypothesis are based on the fact that the limestone beds used for the main work of the Temple of the Sphinx are geographically and architecturally similar to the Valley Temple of Khafre. Some believe that Khufu himself built the Sphinx, which was later finished under his successors, Jedefre and Khafre. These arguments are based on the stylistics of the engraving, the typology of the nemes, and the absence of a beard at the time of construction.
And that's the royal head of Jedefre. Eroded to fuck, isn't it? Jesus. The lost colours.
While ancient Egypt as a whole leaves a rather monochrome vision of its monuments and statuary, it is vital to understand that in ancient times, absolutely everything was painted. The sun, eating away at the pigments of the colors, the sand, the climate, and the implacable impact of time, unfortunately destroyed the glorious colors of the Sphinx of Giza. Documents from an Arab Egyptologist of the 12th century, Abd al-Latif al-Baghdadi, indicate that traces of red were still visible in his time. Today, however, the only color that remains are traces of red close to the ears of the Sphinx, as well as hints of blue and yellow on the nemes, traditional colors for that type of headdress. The pigments for the color red were man-made, obtained by mixing different products such as clay, quartz sand, and very finely crushed hematite.
It is sad though if you think about it, because obviously you put that much time into building a monument such as this, and then time and the weather and the elements just come by and shite all over it. But that's just history for you. Behind the scenes, the
Red
importance of red.
had a strong symbolism in ancient Egypt. It was both the color of life and the color of death. It could represent the sands of the desert or the brilliance of the sun. Red was also associated with the god Seth, vengeful and destructive. The Egyptian word for red, deshur, is also the word which was used to signify the desert, or the royal crown of Lower Egypt. In art, red was also the color used to paint the bodies of men, while yellow was used for women. It is possible that there were also color restoration efforts during the Saite period, about 600 years before Cleopatra's rule, as indicated by notes on the inventory stele, discovered in 1858 by Auguste Mariette. It is because of this that the team made the decision to display it with its full range of colors, even though the Sphinx's colors would have likely faded by Cleopatra's time.
Well, it's better to have a colourful Sphinx to look at rather than... Whoa, what the fuck was that going on? Sorry, I just looked at the map was tilting a wee bit there. What's that? A guardian figure wearing the red crown of Lower Egypt. Although, it's mentioned something about, like, red was used for bodies of men and yellow was used for women. That's
dating from the 4th dynasty, approximately 2600 to 2500 BCE, the Great Sphinx of Giza is the oldest and largest sphinx that we know of. Carved from a natural limestone outcrop, the Sphinx measures 19.8 meters in height, 73.2 meters in length, and 14 meters in width.
70 odd meters? It doesn't look that long. So you're telling me you could do most of a quarter-mile racing? Well, quarter-mile. Why did I say quarter-mile? I've watched too much Fast and Furious. You're telling me you could do most of a fucking 100-meter racing?
Several blocks of limestone were added after the initial construction phase. Since then, there have been numerous attempts at preservation. The polish present in the game integrates some aspects of modern restoration attempts. The team made this choice to present a more iconic version of the Sphinx of Giza to the player. Today, the Sphinx is called the Terrifying One. This appellation is translated from its Arabic name, Abu al-Hal, which in turn was derived from Baluba in Coptic.
What do you call it? Abuluba? Abulol. Abulol. Okay. Right, what's on top here? Natural stone promontory.
The Sphinx as a whole was carved in situ from a natural stone promontory. Its head was built in a limestone peak of the Mukattam plate, and the body was sculpted in the underlying rock layer where it is located. The degradation of the Sphinx is due in particular to wind erosion and the different quality of limestone used in its construction. The level of sodium contained in the groundwater which abuts the stone is also a contributing factor.
Like I said, elements, they're a bastard. Natural bedrock.
The natural bedrock is seen through the oblique natural strata of the Sphinx's body that are similar to the surrounding limestone.
Seriously, you done a whole station for that? A photo from 1909. Impressive. Whoa.
Since antiquity, people have always believed there was a hidden tomb deep within the Sphinx. It is thought that attempts to plunder the Sphinx began as far back as the First Intermediate period. Since then, numerous attempts to pierce the Sphinx's secrets have been carried out, leaving indelible scars upon the monument.
Makes sense. You see something this massive and you'd be thinking, oh, they might be hiding something in there. I'm going to punch a hole in it. Behind the scenes.
12 meters long and cut during pharaonic times, another entrance in the back of the Sphinx aroused curiosity. Although Thutmose IV attempted to seal it off, it was possibly reopened by treasure hunters. It was rediscovered by Howard Vyse and mapped more recently by Mark Lehner. This entrance at the back of the Sphinx leads to different cavities of a few meters each, in directions going inside the statue's body and under the surface. The team has used this opportunity to extrapolate a little more.
It was possibly reopened by treasure hunters. Lara Croft been here by any chance? Theories and science.
While there have been no major discoveries pertaining to the Sphinx of Giza in recent years, theories and hypotheses continue to emerge.
Such as?
Without validation provided by archaeological sources, however, they remain unsubstantiated.
Not really, Sage. It depends on... I'm guessing it just depends on your connection, because I've had... Well, actually it does. It takes about 30 seconds, give or take. Oh, that is a bit of a fucking pain in the ass to communicate with, but... No, I see a point. Without validation provided by archaeological sources, however, they remain unsubstantiated. Yeah, just if you ever send a message, Sage, and you don't see it pop up, give me a message and I'll read it out. Because I can see it in the live chat.
Of Giza's meaning posits that the Sphinx was originally a massive representation of the god Anubis. Its principal arguments are that the head of the Sphinx is disproportionate compared to the size of its body. The second theory believes that the representation of two sphinxes on the stela of Thutmose IV would indicate that another stone sphinx had existed on the site itself, possibly even in paired symmetry on the other side of the Nile. However, neither of these theories can be verified in any way.
So I didn't hear the first part of that because my mic started like glitching a wee bit. First of the main theories is to the Sphinx of Giza's meaning posits that the Sphinx was originally a massive representation of the god Anubis. Its principal arguments are that the head of the Sphinx is disproportionate compared to the size of its body. Okay. Recreating
Several scientific projects using new technologies have been put in place in the past decades. The most important was led by Mark Lehner and his team, who specialize in the study and survey of the Giza Plateau, including the Sphinx site. The mapping made it possible to see the materials used to construct the Sphinx, analyze the different layers of erosion, and figure out the most fragile areas to protect. After a few attempts at giving the Sphinx artistic proportions, the team instead decided to use photogrammetry mapping to faithfully reproduce the proportions of the Sphinx.
And here we've got a small montage of different versions of the Sphinx during development of the game. Ooh, we've got some concepts. And then they stuck on this one.
What the Sphinx of Giza represented during its construction and how the Sphinx was perceived by the Egyptians of the New Kingdom are two very different matters. Originally a representation of the king imbued with the power of the lion, the Sphinx was eventually viewed as a direct representation of the most divine. It is theorized that kings of the New Kingdom believed that the Sphinx of Giza was the one who recognized and legitimized the ruler of Egypt. Thus, despite the fact the Sphinx of Giza was partially buried under the sand during his reign, Amenhotep II knew that the monument was of great importance.
Huh. Before you know it, could have just been something that somebody built when they were bored. But he went, nah, they put this much time into it, it must be important.
Amenhotep II built a second temple dedicated for the Sphinx as Horemakhet to pay homage to Khufu and Khafre, his predecessors.
Sorry, what word just came out of your
It
mouth?
became a common habit for this dynasty to spend time with their royal courts at the Sphinx. Its sanctuary became known as Setepet, the Chosen.
Amenhotep II built a second temple dedicated for the Sphinx as Horemakhet. What? Sphinx as Horemakhet? What fucking word just came out of my mouth, man? This is a scarab inscribed with the throne name of Amenhotep II and also featuring the Sphinx. Fancy. Fancy indeed.
Egyptologist Mark Lehner believed that Amenhotep II built a statue of himself, anchored between the paws of the Sphinx, likely to legitimize his reign, alongside a stela found by Salim Hassan. Many other pharaohs of this dynasty, such as Tutankhamun and Ramses II, also left marks of their passage in a similar fashion, sometimes even stripping the stones of nearby temples and pyramids to do so. Amenhotep II's son and successor, Thutmose IV, was a frequent offender.
Sorry, ain't these sacred places, these temples and monuments that you're taking these bricks for? Why would you... Jesus Christ. Ramses II making an offering of incense and water to the great Sphinx Harmachis. If he really did build a statue of himself in between the paws of the Sphinx, it's a bit, yep. Kitty! Oh, pet the cat, come on. Sorry, cat, you got yourself stuck.
While sleeping between the Sphinx's paws, the future Thutmose IV saw in a dream the god Horamakhet proclaiming his coming accession on the throne of the two lands. This was, of course, on the condition that he remove all of the sand covering the Sphinx, which stood guard as the personification of the god, and should thus never be engulfed by the sands of the desert.
DJ Necropolis of Memphis. Wait, you're telling me he slept in between the paws of this bloody thing? That seems really uncomfortable.
The 15-ton dream stela built by Thutmose IV to commemorate his dream was discovered by an Italian Egyptologist, Giovanni Battista Caviglia, in 1818, when he undertook the task of freeing the Sphinx from the sand, which had, yet again, covered it. Caviglia was looking for an entrance into the structure of the Sphinx, but instead he discovered an open-air chapel and stelas between the paws. Ashes from a ceremony were still present. Protected by sand, they quite possibly were from the last ceremonies in Roman times.
There was an interaction button up here. Dream Stela. Here lies a statue of the great Khafre, the glorious, the respected one, under the protection of Ra. Memphis and the great cities adore his face and make great offerings to his Ka. One day, as the sun was high, Prince Thutmose travelled here and rested under its shadow. As he dreamed, the great god spoke to him. Watch me, son, for I am your father. Horamakhet Khafre Ra Atum. Examine my body, left for ruins like a dying person. The desert that I used to rule now defies me. Before all who live, I will grant you the crown when you have relieved me of my burden. 15 ton, you say? I don't doubt that for a second. Oh, it's a very pretty moon. Just as long as you stay there, moon, and don't pull a Majora on us, we're fine.
That same year, Caviglia discovered fragments of the Sphinx's beard that had probably been added during the New Kingdom. If many of these pieces are held by museums in Cairo, a fragment is displayed at the British Museum, along with a piece of the uraeus that was on the Sphinx's headdress. It is believed this fragment of beard was possibly kept in place thanks to the statue of Amenhotep II, which was supposed to be located under the head of the Sphinx.
Supposed to be, but it's not. Huh. Okay. The missing nose.
A popular cultural legend purports that the nose of the Sphinx of Giza was lost during the time of Napoleon Bonaparte to the cannon fire of French soldiers in training. However, engravings from before the time of that campaign already depicted the Sphinx without a nose, indicating that it had been removed before the French campaign.
Oh, it's time connected then. The iconoclastic.
The most plausible hypothesis is based on the research of the German historian Ulrich Harman. During the 1980s, Harman compiled medieval sources written by Arab authors. In doing so, he discovered that the Sphinx was once perceived as a favorable omen, a deity supporting sediment-nurturing floods and crops. Around 1378, a Sufi by the name of Muhammad Saim al-Dar could not stand this vision of the monument, and in an iconoclastic act, broke the nose of the Sphinx. According to the texts, he was then hanged and burned between the legs of the Sphinx for his crime.
Jesus. Alright, we've got a cat just following us a bit. Right, so that's the riddles of the Sphinx. Ah, screw it, where? We're not too far away from one. Just make sure I'm travelling the right way. See, that's something that I love about Assassin's Creed Origins. You can be like 300 meters away from something, but you reach it in 5 minutes. Because in these RPG Assassin's Creeds, the characters are just fucking rapid. Learn about the plateau hosting most famous... Right, what? An overview of the Giza necropolis, number of stations, 3, reaching Giza. Right, did anyone actually proofread this? Because I am looking at this and this does not look right. Learn about the plateau hosting most famous necropolis of ancient Egypt. Shouldn't it be hosting the most famous necropolis? Estimated time 2 minutes. We'll see about that.
An overview of the Giza necropolis.
Giza Plateau.
The Giza Plateau is located on the west bank of the Nile and was considered by ancient Egyptians as the domain of the dead. The pyramidal complexes found there were built over the span of 3 generations, during the reign of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure.
And was each of these pyramids built by one of those 3? Because you've got Khufu on the left, Khafre in the middle, and Menkaure on the right. Which would mean that Khufu is little bitty baby pyramid. Why the hell are you pulling me all the way over here?
The Giza area, now famous for its 3 pyramids, is part of a wider grouping of funerary complexes. Rulers from this period generally elected to be buried in the area. The focal point of the entire region was the city of Memphis, chosen as the capital of Egypt at the beginning of the Old Kingdom.
See, I've heard the Old Kingdom being referenced like once or twice in my GH playthrough of Origins, but I've never actually learnt about it.
The placement of the Giza monuments, and particularly that of the pyramids, followed a practical yet strict alignment. First, they focused on cardinal points, and then they accounted for the natural geology of the plateau.
Actually, hold on a second.
The placement of the Giza monuments, and particularly that of the pyramids, followed a practical yet strict alignment. First, they focused on cardinal points, and then they accounted for the natural geology of the plateau.
Cardinal points. So I've got no idea what that actually means. What the fuck are cardinal points? Like a strict alignment, so these were intentional. Well, they were intended to be built this way. They didn't just see a small one and go, you know what, I'm going to build a bigger one next to it just to really fuck with the guy. Mind you, it would be funny if they did. What the bus? Something I want to check. How far can I go with this eagle? Because that map just made it look like there was a symbol carved into the side of this fucking pyramid. And luckily I can check with my bird. There's not a symbol at the side of it, it's just a fucking... Oh, it's just a hole. Right, I can take that off then. Right. We'll leave the pyramids behind now. Tell you what, we'll go to Alexandria. We've not been there in a while. What the hell? The Great Library of Alexandria. Up here, oh fuck me, huh? Right, Great Library, Great Library. Is this it? Nope, introduction. Nope. State of celebration. The siege. What? Siege? 22. Oh, fuck. Cleopatra. The Pantheon. Commercial hub. Serapion. The Great Library. Silence in the library. In Alexandria, scholars were highly regarded. In the rest of the Hellenistic world, not so much. One expression, he's either dead or off teaching somewhere. Ooh. Alexandria was the capital of Egypt for almost 1,000 years. Pretty certain that the fucking UK's got you beat. Egyptians ate while reclining on one elbow. Couches, chairs and other furniture would thus be used for other rooms while reclining on one elbow. What, so... Ooh. That sounds hella uncomfortable. The Great Library of Alexandria.
Welcome to the Great Library of Alexandria.
Introduction.
Near the district of royal palaces and within the Moseon was the most famous library of all antiquity. The Library of Alexandria was built to house all of human knowledge. At its pinnacle, the library was believed to contain over 700,000 parchments.
Oh yeah, because they wrote in papyrus sheets, didn't they? Recreating the Great Library.
Throughout the centuries, fires and wars between Christianity and paganism destroyed the library, leaving nothing behind.
Shame.
The loss of the building, and more importantly, its vast collection, is immeasurable.
That's not even being sarcastic.
As no descriptions are available,
that's true.
The team's rendition of the Library of Alexandria was inspired by the visuals of the Library of Chalcis at Ephesus.
Oh, so this isn't even what it... Oh, I thought when they said they destroyed the library, they didn't leave any of the books or the parchments of that, or like any kind of records. No, they burned the thing to the ground. Jesus, that's a shame. I'd like to visit the Great Library of Alexandria at some point. Building the collection.
While much of the collection was purchased at the government's expense, the library also obtained books through other means. Any books owned by travelers coming through the city were seized to be copied for the library. The copy would then be returned to the owner, and the original entered into the library's collection.
That seems a bit a dirty method of doing it, but... Oh, you're kidding me. It's like deliberately making me slow in here. The Great Minds of Alexandria.
Alexandria offered unrivaled intellectual and cultural attractions. Eminent scholars from Athens, Rhodes, and other Greek centers traveled to the city to learn and engage with other free thinkers. Both the Moseon and the library were at the center of groundbreaking ideas and creative expression.
Plato's Academy Mosaic. I've always had an appreciation for fucking mosaic art. I don't know why. It just looks cool. Like what you see on the floor.
The great minds of antiquity were usually well versed in many disciplines, which were often associated to specific schools of thought. The Peripatetics, the Stoics, and the Cynics were among the most well-known schools of the time.
The Cynics.
It is clear that Alexandria lived up to its fundamental role as a city for intellectuals, nurturing many great minds whose impact reverberates through our modern world.
So this was used not only just to read, this was also to teach a little bit. What can this square make me do? including the floor. Okay.
Hypatia of Alexandria was a Greek mathematician, philosopher, astronomer, and inventor. Though born in Greece, she eventually migrated to Alexandria, like many great minds of the time. It is there that she became the head of the Neoplatonist school of Alexandria. From most accounts, she was highly respected by her fellow Alexandrians, both as a teacher and a philosopher. With her death, the age of great ancient scientific discoveries came to an end.
Jesus. So this was a woman who managed to gain like, recognition this time? Because I knew that... I remember that women weren't exactly the most respected in this time. I don't...
Callimachus was born in Cyrene and educated in Athens. After his studies, he moved to Alexandria to work in the Great Library. A poet and a critic, he strongly rejected the epic format of Homeric poems, and instead fervently supported a shorter, more judiciously formulated style of poetry. His epigrams and elegiac poems were emulated by later poets. His work was extremely popular, second only to Homer's own works.
Yeah, we might start learning about Homer if we ever get to the Discovery Tour of Odyssey. Yeah, we'll kick it in Alexandria for a couple more tours. Euclid.
It was in Alexandria that mathematician Euclid, the father of geometry, wrote the Elements, laying out the foundational work of what would become modern algebra and number theory.
When have you ever
Euclidean
used algebra?
geometry would become one of the most influential systems in the evolution of mathematics.
Let's just be realistic. Who ever uses fucking algebra and like trigonometry and all that shit? What is this? This is all Greek to me. Euclides' elements, things which are equal to the same thing are also equal to one another. If equals be added to equals, the wholes are equals. If equals be subtracted from equals, the remainders are equal. Things which coincide with one another are equal to one another. The whole is greater than the part. That sounds less like mathematics and more like philosophy. History of geometry. One must be versed in... Oh, fuck, I forgot these names are a nightmare. One must be versed in Poseidon's geography as well as Eudomus' arithmetic and geography. Elements by Euclides is as important as Pythagoras' essence of source of all things. Finally, Archimedes on the equilibrium of planes would be the best addition of knowledge to Platon's teaching. Jesus Christ. Eratosthenes' geometry. On the summer solstice simultaneously, the sun strikes Syene and Alexandria, but their shadows have different angles. When comparing the angles and relating them to the distance between the two towns, planet Earth measures 250,000 stadia. I feel my brain melting.
How do you calculate the circumference of the Earth? With a camel, 2 sticks, and shadows cast by the sun.
Huh?
This is what Eratosthenes of Cyrene described in his principal work, Geography, while he was director of the Great Library of Alexandria. He is credited for the invention of the armillary spear around 250 BCE.
And I know that the armillary sphere is what you see in is that circle like sun thing in the opening of every Game of Thrones episode. Just freaking to reference that into pop culture, but so this is a map of the world according to this guy. Yeah, it's not too bad, but Albion. Fuck. Let's not get Fable up in here. We ain't playing Fable yet. In fact, I don't know if we'll ever play Fable. See, Armillary Sphere.
The earliest known and most complete armillary sphere of antiquity was the Meteoroscopion of Alexandria, with an imposing 9 rings compared to the 3 or 4 of most other
Oh,
asteroids.
Jesus.
Known as the zodiac Krakatoi amongst the Greeks, the Meteoroscopion was used to determine the location of celestial bodies around the Earth. Every self-respecting astronomer of antiquity would have sought to use this tool to better understand the celestial movements.
Please tell me I can interact with this. Zodiac Krakatoi. Known as an armillary sphere to Romans, this observational device determines the locations of celestial bodies around the Earth, the spheric centre of the universe. The position is fixed by corresponding the latitude and meridian rings to the position of the Sun or a star. Okay. This just looks a lot more complicated than it needs to be.
Pythagoras of Samos was a well-known and respected philosopher and mathematician. He is best known for the Pythagorean theorem. However, there is proof that the theorem existed in Babylonia and India long before Pythagoras was born, casting some doubts as to who exactly originated the theorem.
See, Odyssey pronounces it as Pythagoras. That's the philosopher shown teaching. Oh, is that it? I thought we had one more tour. Pythagoras is proof. I'm supposed to say Pythagoras, but in right-angled triangles, the figure on the side opposite the right angle equals the sum of the similar and similarly described figures on the sides containing the right angle. That just sounded weird on my fucking tongue. What? Oh. Okay, that just... I could feel my brain melting. Right. Passport 7729 and 5. Right, so we've done Romans, we don't need to go back to that topic. Daily life. Right, we'll do one more tour and then we'll call it the Ancient Egyptian Fashions. Ah, what the hell. Oh, fucking up. Oh well. Why is my phone blinking? What? Oh my god. Really? No. Oh my god. I have just seen something on Twitter which says that Slime Rancher is coming to Nintendo Switch. As if I needed another excuse to waste money.
Welcome to Ancient Egyptian Fashions.
Ancient Egyptian Fashions. Okay. Connecting with the past.
Learning what life was like for ancient Egyptians presents many differences, and yet also surprising similarities to how people might live today. Understanding the daily lives of regular citizens so many thousands of years ago is ultimately what connects us as human beings.
Those who can't remember the past are doomed to repeat it. It's always good to look back to the mistakes of the past and that, but also to
Jewelry
the
was
good
a
things so you
popular
can learn
item
from
among
them.
ancient Egyptians of all social standing. Both men and women wore earrings, rings, and bracelets. Status determined how much jewelry a person wore and what it was made of. Common folk wore pearl necklaces, simple bracelets, and leather bangles. Brightly colored earthenware and glass paste were a favorite enhancement.
The flesh of the
The
gods.
jewelry of the elite was made from gold, silver, and other precious stones. Because gold never lost its shine, it was considered akin to the flesh of the gods. Wide-jeweled collars were a favorite. Made with rows of beads formed into patterns of animals or flowers, the soft chiming sounds they made were thought to appease the gods.
And piss everyone else off.
نفعاني ويجمام احرق ليك شام وعال نار تطيش رولتي خد امساد بنارتي شم انيتو وي رين ماري سكمت خود جادني
Oh, so this is a conversation spot.
نيك ياهو خيط هريت بدودك رسف مروت ايس عون نخسن
We're just working on a limb here. Right, sorry. No, I'll let you get back to what you were doing. Changing fashions.
Though idealized, tomb paintings are a catalogue of the changing fashions of ancient Egypt from the Old to the New Kingdom. Egyptians took appearance and cleanliness very seriously and were diligent about their fashion, hair, and jewelry as well as their grooming habits.
Wait, it took their appearance and cleanliness very seriously? Jesus. Still of Afinmut. I'm calling them Afinmut. That might be Afinmut. I don't care. Jeez. Imagine living in Egypt and being like obsessed with how you look. Oh, we must look clean. As a fucking sandstorm hits you in the face.
The fabric of ancient Egyptian clothing was almost entirely made from various grades of linen. Linen was commonly white, draped over the body, and cinched at the waist, though some garments were sewn or tailored. Wealthy men wore long tunics, loincloths, or kilts, while poor men only wore loincloths. Women wore long dresses, with differences residing in the quality of the fabric, depending on social status.
Which is what it always comes down to.
Egyptians commonly went barefoot, but could also wear sandals made from papyrus fiber or leather.
That's a tunic that they wear. Oh, that just looks uncomfortable. And itchy as fuck.
Cosmetics, including concoctions to prevent body odor and bad breath, were an integral part of everyday life for Egyptians. Used by both men and women, cosmetics were used as moisturizing ointments and sun protection as much as for beautification. Red ochre, a natural clay, was the most readily available cosmetic to tint lips and cheeks. Henna was used on nails and lips, and as hair coloring. It was also favored by richer women to decorate their palms and the soles of their feet.
Toilet set. That's a box of toiletries. Okay. Wasn't expecting to see that today. I genuinely thought I heard one of these guys say Valhalla. I was about to say we're in the wrong fucking time period for that.
Egyptians believed coal had magical powers, wearing it as black eyeliner to protect their eyes from the sun and to prevent eye infections from particles in the flooded Nile River. A special green coal, made from ground malachite, was worn for ceremonies and religious rituals.
Tomb painting representing a banquet scene. Tomb of Nebamun, Thebes. Okay. We'll be going to Thebes in the DLC if we ever get around to it. We'll eventually get there in the glitch on the stream, but I'm not too sure about this one. Hair fashion.
Women and teenage girls wore their hair long and often braided. Wealthier women included carved combs or hairpins. The length of men's hair rarely dropped past the shoulders. They were mostly clean-shaven during the dynastic period, a trend began by the elite and soon adopted by the general populace. Queen Hatshepsut donned an artificial beard when she became pharaoh.
What if you just wanted to grow your hair out?
Wigs were very popular, used for special occasions or to conceal gray hair or baldness. They were fastened in place with beeswax.
What?
The most expensive wigs were made from human hair and reserved for royalty. Other wigs were composed of linen, wool, or animal hair.
Curled wig. No, thank you. Made from... Oh god, most expensive ones were made from hair. Ah! Human hair. Children's hairstyles.
Prepubescent children generally had their heads shaved. Young girls kept some strands intact, while young boys had a braid worn on the side.
Huh. So explain Shadia here. Yeah, she has the braids, but her head's not shaved. Jesus Christ! Fuck, playing as a kid in Assassin's Creed, am I right? If this had, like, health in that, I could easily die here. Seriously? You're not letting me go under the water? No, it's physically refusing me to go into the water. Whereas Shadia is just tanking it and just standing there like a champ. Holy shit. Do not fuck with Shadia. Because this girl will fuck you up. Right. That's gonna be the last tour we do today, guys. So, you know what's coming next. We will head back to... You know what? I'm gonna go to the Great Lighthouse of Alexandria and jump off that. Because it takes about 20 seconds to fall. Yeah, that's the... Granite, one of the hardest rocks, was used on occasion. The Great Pyramids were occasionally covered with it. Were originally covered with it. Obelisks weighing hundreds of tons were carved from it. From granite? Ooh, that's a... that is quite a drop. I can tell you right now, if a child was up here nowadays, well, if Shadia was up here in her time, she'd be getting told, "Oh, what are you doing up here? Get down, girl." But not that. This is a view, man. The viewpoint was good, but this, oof. This is what you call a view. Whew. That is... Ubisoft definitely outdone themselves there. Right, that's where we're getting in that there, guys. Because... I don't know if you've heard, but I've been yawning throughout that entire last tour. I just couldn't freaking stop. So... Yeah, I don't know what the video we'll do next week is. I didn't mean to do that. Nice backflip though. We'll go back up and do that again. Yeah, I don't know what the video next week, Wednesday, will be, because obviously with my new schedule I'm going to only do one personal stream a week. So I'm not too sure what I'll be playing next time, although I'm thinking of heading back to the Assassin's Creed series playthrough and finishing off the Ezio trilogy. Well, finishing off Assassin's Creed 2, at least. So, I'm not going to say anything for definite, because we all know how my mind likes to change. So, yeah. Until then, thanks for... But you'll see me again. I'll be streaming again on Friday, but it will be on the Glitch Hunter account. Not too sure if it's going to be the YouTube or the Twitch. I don't know, but I will post that on... It will be posted on Twitter whenever I decide, whatever I decide to do. But until next week, guys, thanks for watching, stay safe, keep on gaming, like, favourite and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed, and if you want to see more Discovery Tour on the channel, consider hitting that notification bell and you'll get an update whenever we post a new video. So, for me and Shadia here, we will catch you in the next episode. Bye! That wasn't as graceful, Shadia. Thank you.